That's right. Redraft. You read that title correctly, folks. Dynasty Six Pack goes redraft. So join us along for this special redraft episode here in 2025. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of the Dynasty Six Pack. I am one of your hosts, Kyle Senra. Joining me are my fantastic co-hosts, fresh from the Fantasy Football Expo, Jamie Perog. Jamie, how are you doing?
Good, man. I just got back from the Fantasy Expo where I got to hang out with Harold Fannon's mom and uncle. So that was super awesome. They're good people, and it reminded me that this game's more than just stats. It's all about the stories, right? So today we're going to be talking booms and busts and sleepers, like the guys who could win a league, ruin your week, or quietly turn into every week starters. So
yeah, that's a great way to start there, Jamie. But of course, our other co-host and the architect of this episode, he finally got his wish and got a redraft episode here on Dynasty Six Pack. It's none other than Rahul Natarajan. How you doing, Rahul?
Doing well, Kyle. Good to see you. Good to see Jamie as well. You both had your fun earlier on in the Dynasty Six Packs run, talking about auction, talking about Dynasty Best Ball, and perhaps sacrilegiously, I chose redraft as my favorite format of fantasy football. Dynasty, those types of formats are year-long games, but redraft occupies that special 17 weeks of the year that, I don't know, honestly, what Jamie, you were just talking about right there, the narratives of the season as they build, that kind of intensity, I feel like is a little bit unmatched in other formats because you get to experience Dynasty year-round. You have a rookie draft, you spread your excitement through the year. Regardless, very excited to get into this one. Very timely episode as well. Drafts are right around the corner, so I'm sure we'll have a lot of great advice for everyone out there listening. So really excited for this one.
Yeah, and excited to have people join us in the chat, whether it's Albert here saying hello, everyone here in the comments. If you want to participate, you can do so on the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube page. We're live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to subscribe there if you're just listening to us on audio form. Subscribe as well to those platforms. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate any interactions, whether it's live during the show, after the fact. Again, the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube page. None of that would be possible without Joe Bond and FantasySixPack.net, however, and very topical because there's so many redraft articles right now on Fantasy Six Pack website. So check out FantasySixPack.net for all of that. There's quite a lot for free, but of course, there's also the All Access membership, and using the promo code F6PPods, you can gain a 15% discount to that All Access membership, and that's premium articles, premium content like extra cheat sheets and other. I think there's a lot of extra DFS content and betting stuff that isn't readily available for a free account. It also gets you access to different Discord channels. I think you can join the Fantasy Six Pack Discord for free, but there are different levels to get through, and the All Access membership gets you access to everything. So the All Access membership is worth it. There's quite a lot, especially with the NFL season underway. So check that out. And if you're still trying to get leagues together, I know I had a commissioner today text me about changing platforms because we're going to go from a redraft to a keeper league, actually. And one place you could always go to that customizable no matter what is Fantrax. And right now, Fantasy Six Pack has a partnership with them. Fantrax.com/Fantasy Six Pack for more details. But Canada Cup, that was always one that was always on Fantrax. So big tournaments, somewhat akin to the Scott Fish Bowl, we'll say. Maybe not quite as ambitious, but certainly any platform that you're looking at any type of customization, you can get that on Fantrax. And so we're just going to talk about simple redraft today, though. There you go, Rahul. You get that. You get your wish. But there's a few things you put in the show sheet talking about early round strategies and approaching your redraft leagues. What are you going to do? How are you going to go into it? And you mentioned a couple, and it got me thinking of this topic, which are running back strategies, RB strategies. And I can think of 3 main ones. And you mentioned 2 in the show sheet, Rahul, but robust RB is sort of the classic.
Yeah.
That's like the classic old school 90s fantasy football players where teams didn't throw that much. So, of course, it was all about the running backs. You could still win with that strategy nowadays, too, because running backs still do score a lot of points. And in a PPR era with lots of passing, well, guess what? A lot of the elite running backs are also catching a lot of passes. So you've got robust RB, but you also had 2 you wanted to talk about. They've catchy names. So you want to fly in, Rahul, and mention them briefly, and then we can kind of discuss the merits of all 3.
Yeah, as a newfangled data nerd to this beautiful game, the ones that I am a little more familiar with just through the ones the cool kids are writing about are zero running back, hero running back. Perhaps is like that happy medium that people like myself try to blend the 2 into, but zero RB is like maybe the strategy that was like I saw as a new player is like the new wave, and that's a strategy that kind of got crushed across the board in 2024 with I think 2 very key elements which really do tie into running back scoring is one, injuries, where a lot of the running back just seem to stay a little more healthy compared to the wide receivers, and that's always a risk that you take when you draft an early running back. The second is the NFL switching a little more to a running stats, running usage was up across the league last year. The number of running plays called as like defenses perhaps like got lighter to combat more pass heavy teams. So 2 factors that like create the perfect marriage that crushed zero running back strategies across the board last year. But I said I was gonna improve on not yapping, but there I went in the tangent. So hero running back, zero running back, and as you mentioned, robust running back are kind of the 3 main strategies people approach with.
Yeah, so I guess it all could function well. The key is just picking the right players at the end of the day, right? Like any of those strategies can work as long as the players you do select in those spots get there. And I guess one thing is, how do you define? So hero and zero RB is like people get scared of the name zero RB. You're not drafting 0 running backs across your entire roster, but you've got 0 for a certain part of it, the early portion. Is there like a definition? I guess with all this data nerding you've done, come across a strict definition of what is 0 RB. What is that threshold for when you take an RB that it counts as a 0 RB?
I'm sure there's a threshold out there. Generally, I think it's to fill your flex and onesie spots before you go for a running back. Of course, like predicated on like being able to hit those later round like breakout gems, or really count on injuries to running backs drafted higher up the board. But threshold wise, I don't know. What would you call it? Like maybe round 7 is the first.
Well, that's the thing. I think I typically go by the starters, like you're saying, right? Like you get, if it's 3 wide receivers and a flex, you got those 4 spots, your quarterback and your tight end. If it's a super flex, you push that even further. You say round 8, but that's you fill in every other possible starting spot first.
Exactly.
Focus on those 2 running back spots. I'm going to figure out how to fill. I know Scott Connor said this a lot, right? If you're going through a 17-week season, that's 34 running back starts you have to find throughout the season, right? You might get lucky on one of these 0 RB guys that gets you multiple starts or gets you a big chunk of that, but you're spending so little early capital that you have to just through depth of moves, not just depth of drafting, but picking up guys on the waiver, being aggressive, filling those 2 extra running back weeks or spots per week, those 34 running back spots through the season. You just kind of find a way to tailor that. You're kind of taking running back out of the equation in flex most weeks when you go in with that. Because you've drafted 4 strong wide receivers, or you've gone with the 2 early tight ends, and so you're filling those positions. You don't have to worry about running backs in the flex, but you're just trying to get 34 running back starts through the season. That's sort of the philosophy of 0 RB.
So for me, I think 0 RB, if you take your first RB in the 6th round and you already have 3 receivers, a tight end, maybe a quarterback or an extra receiver, and then go grab your first running backs, like a David Montgomery type, Chuba Hubbard, even DeAndre Swift. That would be like, to me, a 0 RB strategy. Because you're getting the very last of the 32 starters, right?
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's. I mean, man, on a 0 RB build, even to get like a Montgomery Swift. I hate DeAndre Swift, but even like a Montgomery seems like a Chuba Hubbard, a higher threshold of running back that I would normally associate with a 0 running back build. I think interesting things to see in draft trends is how wide receivers have been pushed up the board in the last few years. I think I had the stats here. We went from like 13 wide receivers drafted by round 3 through 2022 to 16 and 17 in the last year. So you're starting to get like close to a low end wide receiver 2 drafted by round 3. It's like coincided with like what people think is like a dead zone for running backs, falling further and further down the board as the wide receivers get pushed up. So maybe, like a Montgomery in round 6 is still possible, just the way like the running back 24 is no longer as highly drafted.
Yeah, because then in round 8 you're looking at the Brian Robinsons.
That's what Brian Robinson is probably like running back 30 off the board, right?
It's
like the Jalen Warrens, what's that other guy? Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
So mention the fancy 6 pack.
For me, that's pushing it. I wouldn't want any of those guys as my 1. So I think round 7 would be the latest where I would go with like a Pollard, Pacheco, and then grab in the 8th like a Brian Robinson, Jordan Mason.
And that's the thing. If you're going to wait that long, most of your picks from then on are going to be running backs. As long as at that point where you're looking is any point where there's a running back that looks like they're good value at ADP, you're just taking them the whole time. And if you get to a range where, there's no good running backs this ADP range, okay, then I'll flip to another position. Who gives me the most upside? Again, is there a backup at one of the onesies you want to take, or just, okay, I haven't taken a wide receiver in 10 rounds. Like I went 4 early. I'll take wide receiver 5 here late. I think that's the key there is once you start 0 RB, you want to fill most of most of your bench and most of the rest of your picks with.
So we got Fantasy Dog in the chat. Just we're doing a redraft episode on the Dynasty Six Pack, but we'll answer any questions, redraft or Dynasty. Drop them.
Thank you, Fantasy Dog. Appreciate the continued support. Been here several times, commenting, liking, and yes, interacting with us. Appreciate that. Yes, thank you very much. And so it's funny that you mentioned Brian Robinson. Just to plug the Fantasy Six Pack pick slot series, there's 12 articles written by 4 of us, so I think we ended up with 3 each. Myself, Joe Bond, Corey Pieper, Michael Tomlin. We all wrote articles and like from each pick slot using the ADP. What are strategies you could come up with? And I remember one of my hero running back strategies, I believe it was for the 106 article, was essentially, you're gonna, if you can get Jahmyr Gibbs to fall to you at 106 or Barkley or whatever, you start there, and then Brian Robinson will be like the perfect second running back to take to then build that. That type of format. You're only you're hoping that whoever your hero running back is accounts for most of those 17 starts you need. So you're only looking for 17 more running back starts throughout the year. A guy like Brian Robinson can probably at least give you a safe floor of carries to literally and figuratively carry you through a lot of those weeks. So he'd be a good guy to go with. As again, what I like to do is the hero RB. I'm pretty scared of going 0 RB. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm still pretty hesitant. I either take the hero RB or robust RB approach. I don't know. I mean, you saw my Scott Fishbowl start, right? I mean, and Jamie did it too. But even without the crazy points per carry, I tend to default to doing stuff like that anyway. If there's tons of flex spots, I'm probably going to take a lot of shots at running back. So I tend to favor robust RB between the 3 personally. But I never go in thinking I'm going to do anything. I'll let the draft decide. But I know if I'm able to decide, I'd probably default to taking a lot of running backs early.
Yeah, I never lock into one strategy. I let the draft board fall to me, see where I'm going from there. If I do have a hero RB and like someone like Bijan, let's say, right, round 1, and then I'm gonna go rest receivers for 5 rounds. But if someone like I don't know, Kyron Williams or Breece Hall fall to me in the mid 4th. I can't pass that up.
So much for hero RB. We're going the super team, multiple heroes, right? We'll do the Avengers. Rahul, I guess you didn't even put robust RB on the show sheet, so I'm assuming that's not the answer for you.
I think it might be. I think, like you guys know, I've really only had 3 years fantasy football experience. I count my first year as year 0, so it's I knew two football players at that point. So I have gone in with more of a 0 RB to hero RB strategy over the years, and maybe I'm overreacting to one season of football. Just the past one that being, but I'm kind of reconsidering like the relative point scoring of running backs versus wide receivers. I'm thinking for sure from a half PPR format. So in a PPR format, a lot of people play 3 wide receiver formats. So that's kind of where the value is evened a little bit. But in half PPR, running backs are like going to continue to be king, and that's where I think, Kyle, you hit the nail on the head with talking about filling flex positions with running backs. That's something where I was like, let me fill it with 4 wide receiver 2s to 3s, and that's going to be my strategy until I hit on that running back that pops off, maybe because of an injury, maybe a rookie, whatever. But I'm losing the flex spots all those weeks, so in my brief period of experimentation, I think this year might be more of a robust RB approach.
Fair
but
enough.
Yeah,
one of us. Okay. Fancy Dog asking, the Hall trade talk doesn't matter nearly as much in Dynasty, right? And I think I'd agree because it's still the situation of he's on the last year of his rookie contract. So no matter where he goes, nothing's going to change that. So he's already into that second contract running back zone, which I'm a little bit hesitant to invest in. So yeah, I agree in principle with that, but I don't know if you guys agree with that statement.
I think Hall, and Jamie will talk better about Breece than I will, but Breece Hall is a unique one where I think a trade does improve the situation. I still like Breece Hall the player, but I really am not a fan of what he's wound up now in 2025 on the Jets. So maybe there a trade, if Breece Hall right now as we get off the podcast was traded the Dallas Cowboys, where does he go in fantasy drafts? That's one where a trade could actually change things. I don't know if I'd go chasing that trade because I think fans like to project trades way more than they actually happen for fantasy relevant players.
I'd raise him a lot more in redraft than I would Dynasty. Because I mean, is the trade coming with an extension, or is he still like a running back on an expiring contract? And that's why I tend to agree with Fancy Dog. It's probably more impactful for redraft because no matter what happens, we are probably looking at Hall on a year-to-year basis at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I know, Jamie, you're pretty high on Hall on a year-to-year basis. So you like him on the Jets, but in theory, would you like him more if like, say, the offense was better, or we thought it's a quarterback that's going to throw more pass attempts, let's say?
Oh, yeah, 100%. If he ends up on, like Rahul said, Cowboys, I'm going to raise him up. Maybe not in Dynasty. I'll probably still keep him the same because I already have him at
Yeah.
RB7-ish.
You're pretty
Can't really raise him
maxing out on that tier, I think, anyway. Now, with Hall, is he someone you guys are willing to just talk about this hero RB strategy? Is he someone that you would take as a hero RB? Like Jamie said, you're probably taking 3rd, 4th round. Probably let's say early 3rd. Like you've taken 2 receivers, maybe you've gone a tight end.
So that's going to be you're going to be at the back half of the draft. So you're going to be having Neighbors, maybe a Neighbors Nico.
Maybe you've got Neighbors Bowers, or
like Neighbors that, Brian Thomas.
Puka, the way he's falling, like maybe you lucked out and got Puka in the 2nd round if there's enough concern with Stafford, something like that.
Yeah, or you lucked into like Drake London in your 2nd round with like either a Puka, Neighbors, Nico, Breece Hall in the 3rd with those players. I don't hate it. There's a guy I'd rather have more, honestly, and we're going to talk about him later as a boom player. And I wouldn't even mind Kyron Williams, honestly, over Breece Hall, just because I know I'm a Kyron hater, but he's safer because he's going to get the workload and he probably won't. There's not as much injury concern, I think, with Kyron Williams as there is with the Breece Hall.
Well, and I mean, Kyron's had some injuries, foot injuries, I think, but he hasn't suffered the major knee injury like Breece Hall has. I think that's when he's been hurt, he's been able to miss a month, come back, and still be productive. Like Hall, it's one massive injury, and we're still that rookie season, 100% version of him. I think we're still scared we won't ever see that again. Maybe that's like that one concern with Hall. I guess my question I wanted to shift to is how many running backs are you willing to have as a hero RB? And
Yeah.
What's that list? What's that cutoff threshold? I guess is Hall a good point to talk about? I'm looking at my rankings. He's my RB 15. That's kind of just I'm a little scared of that point. It's I think Ken Walker, him. Mm-hmm. Those are maybe where I'm a little concerned. It's kind of pushing. Like that's the real threshold of if I took one of them, I'd probably want to take another running back right after. So I would almost say I wouldn't want Hall as a hero RB. At least that's where my stance has been. But I've really been the one who's lowest on him on the show. So what do you think?
I think you're exactly right there. I think Hall certainly, but running back 15-ish tier is kind of outside the bounds of what I'd want to call, the hero running back on this team, like the anchor of this team, a potential 20+ point per game scorer. And I think I don't see that I probably don't see that the ceiling of outcomes for the players drafted around that range. Even if we were to put not to spoil some of the names, but some of the names around that range in the third round for running backs, it's not players I could see finish with 20+ points per game.
Dobbins,
Dobbins, that would be like round 8 or 9.
So Dobbins is probably a great zero RB. That's probably the perfect target. And I think he says, "Oops, wrong." So Fancy Dog realized we're talking about.
So for me,
James Cook, maybe James Cook being the lowest possible hero RB you'd want.
See, to feel comfortable, I like Saquon, obviously, yes. Bijan, yes. Gibbs, yeah. CMC, you could work, yeah. See, Genty, I love his talent, but we've never seen him play a real football game, so I wouldn't want to build a hero RB around Genty. Derrick Henry, yes. Achane, I can deal with. Taylor, yes. And then my last guy would probably be Josh Jacobs. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I'd feel comfortable with like a Bucky or a Chase Brown.
I'd add those two at the end, but I think that's through running back 11 maybe. But I think, all of those guys have that very high, difference-making potential.
So that'd be
I went to RB.
10,
I went to 10 for myself, and I think it was a lot of the 10 conventional names. And I know my RB11 might be a little different than Jamie's RB11. I think we're both going to talk about them in the same kind of vein, but that would be the tier where you'd find Irving and Brown and Hall. And I think I'd probably cut it off before that tier. If I'm taking one of those guys as my RB1, I'd probably want to. I don't want to wait till Brian Robinson is my RB2. Mm-hmm. Probably want to take another one. I want two of these guys. If I take Bucky Irving, I probably want Chase Brown. If I take Breece Hall, I probably want Ken Walker. Like I want, but it doesn't have to be an exact combo. But I want two of those guys in that tier if I'm going to take that tier. Whereas I'm fine going Josh Jacobs and then he's my one anchor back, and I'll wait for Brian Robinson or Pacheco.
So Fancy Dog, it's a stat. I like that.
Yeah. Jacobs, 40% of all Green Bay touchdowns. Kyron Williams, 34%. That can come down, and they could still be very productive. So, I guess we'll see how that goes. But I think all of us are kind of expecting that those two players will still have really good seasons. Okay, have we talked enough about running back strategies?
Sure.
Okay. I'm glad that was so decisive and quick. We're going to talk now about early quarterback tight end strategies. I know, Rahul, you were I guess in connection with some of these strategies like hero and zero RB, when you're not taking so many shots at running back with robust RB, you're having to keep up a wide receiver. It becomes really tough to go quarterback or tight end early, but hero or zero RB kind of lend itself to maybe taking their shots there. So I know you kind of put something on the show sheet of talking about quarterback and tight end ADP and ranges and disparity. So I'll let you explain this and set this up for the listeners.
Yeah, I think something that I'm trying to tackle with drafts this year are how ADP is going. There seems to be like some elite tiers of early quarterbacks and tight ends. I would say I'm more used to the underdog ADP at this point, but I'm kind of considering 4 elite quarterbacks in Allen, Lamar, Hurts, and Daniels, all going pretty far above the rest of the field. Burrow kind of goes maybe a round after that group. At tight end, it's Bowers, McBride, Kittle maybe a round after, and then an even larger gap until the tight end 4 or so. Try is ADP right? Are we right to be drafting that way? Is there success or an edge to be gained at early quarterback and tight end? So that's kind of something I wanted to explore with you guys, because one could say the opportunity cost of not taking another running back or a wide receiver at those spots is going to be worth more than the difference that you have at those positions. If they keep going, maybe
It's funny. Fantasy Dog's comment makes me think to do it if they truly are difference makers, right? Like if this quarterback is gonna not just finish at QB5, but drastically outscore what the rest, like with QB12, QB13, at replacement level QB1 is
exactly.
Can you differentiate yourself and truly get to be a positional advantage? And Burrow might be that guy, but it probably takes him leading the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns again. I think before you mentioned rushing wise, I'd count on their rushing abilities, either their rushing floor for the rushing yards or the rushing upside, the week to week boom upside of the rushing touchdowns, more than Burrow having another career year passing back to back seasons. Like that's why I think if you think like the Fantasy Dog, if you think Burrow and Mayfield are that equal, Mayfield's probably still going a little earlier than say replacement level. Like you're still having to take him quote unquote early, but not nearly as early as Burrow. Like you can get a discount on what you think is the Burrow outcome on Mayfield. So that'd be a good example of you do it, but you maybe don't want to do it for Joe Burrow, for instance.
So Burrow, for example, my current draft went at the 701. Mayfield went at the 8 something, 8-7.
So about a round and a half later. Like that's probably enough players there that it's worth it to wait to get Mayfield to whoever you're going to get in the second.
And I like that area of Mayfield, Knicks, Kyler Murray, and then Justin Fields a whole round later after Mayfield. Fields can be top 5 while you're drafting Josh Allen and Jackson in round 3, sometimes round 2.
That's true. That's true. Round 3. I think that's where my redraft rankings are kind of like round 3 is where like a tier gap exists for running back and wide receiver. But maybe to push back, at least one thing, I don't know if I'm going to go elite quarterback or wait on quarterback, but I kind of don't want to be in that tier of Mahomes, Mayfield, Knicks, Murray, because I don't see too much of a difference from that tier to the ones you just started naming, Fields, then to go like Dak, like Trevor Lawrence under Leon Cohen. Like Fields is an interesting example with the rushing, but as Kyle was talking about with Burrow, with these like more or less rushing oriented quarterbacks, you kind of have to rely on the variance of passing touchdowns year to year. And that's a little harder to predict who's gonna have that 40+ touchdown season. It was Dak to 2-3 years ago to do that. Baker Mayfield last year. I feel like it's a little bit harder to predict. So I'm reluctant to take shots at like quarterback 6 to 10 if I'm skipping out, like 5 to 10 if I'm skipping out in the top tier myself.
Yeah, like I'm okay taking a quarterback last. If it's a 10-team league, I want to be the 10th guy to take a quarterback. 12-team league, I'd probably go like the 9th or 10th guy taking a quarterback.
It's funny. The idea of going early tight end, early quarterback, you tend to pick one or the other, right? Like,
Well, you
you know,
could do both, and you have to make it up later.
that would be the zero RB approach. Like
Mhm.
you're
Well,
foregoing
no, 'cause
running back, and that way you
I did a
have.
draft yesterday, and I did the whole. I took Lamar Jackson in the third, and Laporta in the fifth. I did the hero RB, I guess, with Jonathan Taylor, and didn't take my next one until round 7, which was Caleb Johnson. My team ended up all right. I could have used another flex, honestly.
That's what becomes the problem, especially as you add wide receiver flex spots. Is this you just feel a little bit behind at those last positions? I feel like.
So I tend to number of teams is like the guiding factor on which way I want to lean. Do I prefer to go early QB or early tight end? And the fewer teams, the more likely I want to go early tight end. The more teams I want to go early quarterback. More teams, there's more scarcity. We talk about it all the time. 16 team super flex would be the format where this year you might have seen Cam Ward go first overall, because like a 16 team super flex, quarterbacks are so hard to get that, man, I could draft Ashton Genty, but then if I really needed a quarterback, I'm going to have to just pay Genty plus to get one. Like Ward could probably get you any running back you want more than Genty can. Right? That's the format where, because there's so many more teams, the scarcity at quarterback exists so heavily. Like you push value up at quarterback there. So in a 14-team redraft league, that's where I'm more likely to want to go early at quarterback. In an 8-team league, though, I really want to go early at tight end, because the way I see it, like in a 14-team league at tight end, there's so few difference makers that most weeks you're not facing one. The weeks you play Bowers and McBride, okay, you're losing at that position head to head, but hopefully you can make it up at other positions. But most weeks you're not really worried about your opponent's tight end in a 14-team league, because you come across those elite guys so less often. In an 8-team league, man, if you say there's 6 difference-making tight ends and it's an 8-team league and you don't have one of the difference makers, like you're facing one every week. Like you're constantly behind at that position. So that's a format where
in an 8-team league, I am not leaving the draft without like Kittle, Bowers, or McBride.
Well, that's the format where I'm going to take Bowers in the first round. I'll forego my rankings currently, and I'll just raise him to be like the 6th overall, 7th overall player in an 8-team league, just because I feel like there's so few going, I can make up the running back, wide receivers later. So so I think number of teams is really the indicator to me. Do I want to go early QB or early tight end?
Truck Talk likes Warren. I do like Warren too for dynasty purposes. I just don't know what he's going to do this year. I'm worried.
And so Fancy Dog kind of brings up a point. And Trade Talk, we'll get to your keeper question once we kind of run through this really quick. But like Nick's Prescott, Fields, May, Purdy, like one of those might go so late. So at both positions, I tend to have a really attitude of, I want to take one really early. I want to take one of the top 4 at quarterback, one of the top 3. I might expand to top 5 and say Laporta and Kelsey as well at tight end. Like I want one of those 9 players. And if I don't get them, I want to be, as Jamie said, the last one taking a quarterback or the last one taking a tight end.
Well, I love how he put May, because you know how much I love May. I love how he put that in.
Of course.
We just talked about him recently on Dynasty Court. But last episode, he's missing a player. JJ McCarthy could also be in that range, but you're getting him at QB 18.
Well, I was gonna say
finish there.
McCarthy's probably below that. Like he's the point I'm trying to make, where you might even forego this tier at quarterback, Nick's Prescott, because that's too expensive. But JJ McCarthy, Cam Ward, Michael Penix, like those are the guys where if I'm not going to take the elite difference maker, let me take one of those guys in the last round. Now, I like doing that more at tight end. So when it's a 12-team league, I tend to, am I going to go early QB, early tight end? I tend to lean early QB because I feel like I can get away with the really late tight end. And part of my reasoning is, if there's kicker and defense involved, I will usually make my last 3 picks tight end, kicker, defense. If I miss out on Kittle, McBride, Bowers, I'll just wait till the very end, make my last 3 picks tight end, kicker, defense. I might even go kicker, tight end, defense, because I'm more likely to hold my kicker after week 1 than I am whatever tight end I get at the end of the round if they don't get targets immediately. And one of my things I like doing with tight end is immediately week 1, I'm bidding on tight ends. that have more targets than the tight end I have on my team. If I've waited this late, it's because I'm willing to just drop them after 1 week. Whereas, okay, you take a tight end in the middle round, you really don't feel like doing that. If you took a round 8 shot, round 9 shot at tight end, you took Tucker Kraft in the 9th, he doesn't get targets right away. Are you dropping him like with that big investment? So I tend to just prefer to go early quarterback, really late tight end, because I'm going to be aggressive adding tight ends off the waiver wire as I see the guys who get targets.
Yep, like Mason Taylor.
Sure, yeah. If Mason Taylor gets targets week 1 and he has more targets than the guy I'm rostering that I took really late, well, I'll just cut that guy and pick up Mason Taylor. So
Hurts. I mean, there's tons. Hunter Henry.
Definitely. So I kind of want the shot at Lamar and Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. So as much as I like Kittle, McBride, and Bowers, I'm usually more inclined to go early quarterback.
I think I agree with that, and I think the data also does agree with that. If you look at wins over replacement players in the last couple of years, those elite quarterbacks have consistently been amongst the top 10 in wins above replacement players. To give more context, Lamar last year had 25 points per game, and QB 13 was at 18 points per game. So imagine you're starting your matchup with 7-point advantage over your whoever you're facing. So early quarterback is something I think I'm going to lean into a little bit. I'm going to try to lean into a little bit more this year.
And that's what Fancy Dog is just alluding to. QBs matter the most. Then you go RBs, wide receivers, tight ends, because tight ends are replaceable. I brought it up in one of our episodes where tight ends 7 through 12 is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it goes further than that. Tight end 7 through probably 18 might be pretty similar, right? So you don't even that's why you could you could wait so late at tight end. You could let other teams draft a backup tight end, and you could still be happy with who you draft around tight end 17.
Yeah, let's do this track talk before he leaves the chat. Gets pissed at us.
Keeper questions, right? So 12-team half PPR keeper league, giving up the spot where the player was drafted last year. Love these exercises to make us think. So you could keep Terry McLaurin for an 8th round pick or Jordan Addison for an 11th.
This is
already keeping Neighbors for a 6th, which seems like
awesome. So this is so easy to me because I'm targeting McLaurin at the end of the 3rd round in 12-team half PPRs. I'm looking at one right now, and I got him 401. So late 3rd, early 4th. Addison, I'm targeting on the other side of the board at the 7th, late 6th, early 7th round. So if you do the math, I mean, I think McLaurin's your best value here.
You're
getting him at a 4-round discount, and then Addison, you're also getting at a 4-round discount, but he's the better player, and you can get Addison in your draft if you really want him because of the suspension is going to push him down.
Yeah, I would say the one thing I first thought of, okay, the suspension concern with Addison. I guess also talks. You don't know how many starters, because that's where this argument's really going to come in handy. You're worried about Addison because he won't start for you, but as an 11th round pick, that's probably into your range of bench players. Unless it's a start 11 or start 12, you get him for an 11th, and he's not counting as a starter, so you're not really concerned about the suspension because you feel like you're confident you can fill your starting lineup afterwards. McLaurin for an 8 seems like really good value. So, I don't know. I think it's tricky, right? I mean, you just gave the examples. They're both 4th round values. I think, Jamie, to your point, a 4th round value from 3 to 8 or from 4 to 8 versus 7 to 11, it's worth more the earlier it is.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yep.
Rahul, any thoughts?
I think that's exactly right. Would you rather have Terry McLaurin and someone going in the 11th round, or Jordan Addison and someone going in the 8th round? I think I'd rather have Terry McLaurin. Addison is a good play. Suspension risk aside, there isn't as much of a difference from the 8th to the 11th or 7th to 11th round. Then
it's just going to be easier to draft Addison in your draft as opposed to it's reaching up. Because you're going to have to draft Terry McLaurin in the 1st round because there's 24 keepers already. So you're already going into the third round. So
Yeah, but I mean, to that point, if you want to take Addison, you're probably going to have to take him in the third, fourth round too. So I'm inclined to just agree and say it's McLaurin, but it is very. I could see why this has been asked, Trock Talks, because if it was an easy decision, you probably wouldn't ask us. You'd just make it, right? And yeah, love you too, Fantasy Dog. I love you too, Rahul, just like Fantasy Dog does. But yes,
that's great. I have a keeper question about one of our players later, so I'll remember to ask it.
I'll do it.
So Connor and Kamara. Those are names we might bring up, actually, Fantasy Dog, but we'll get to that. So anything else to say about the early QB tight end strategy?
So we're 40 minutes in. We need to get to our boom, bust, and sleeper.
But that's what I'm asking. Are we done with it?
Yep, let's do it.
So we're done with that topic. Projections tie in. So I just wanted to quickly show this. Talk about last week. We talked about projections. And so this is how I take those target share and touchdown projections specifically at tight end and wide receiver, because I used to be really bad at ranking them, especially from a year-long perspective. So what I've done is essentially just added them together. So list of, you can zoom in if you guys want, essentially the list of players, their target share plus their touchdown to give me a score. That's going to kind of how what guides my rankings. So for instance, Brock Bowers first, George Kittle second, Trey McBride third. I know in a lot of like ADP, Trey McBride is going in the second round typically, whereas Kittle is a third round pick. Because I've got it this way, I'm not saying raise Kittle to be ahead of McBride in the second, but maybe we shouldn't be taking McBride in the second, and he should actually be a third round pick. And that's where the third round is where Daniels, Allen, Lamar go. When it gets down to that, do I want McBride or do I want one of those quarterbacks? I think I want one of those quarterbacks, to be honest. So that's why I tend to lean early quarterback. But that's just kind of one insight where maybe, okay, McBride's a guy I view as, and again, the low touchdown numbers being a reason, only projected for 4 touchdowns. Talked about that last week. Other than Nakua, no player has underperformed their receiving yards expectation for touchdowns more than McBride has over his career. Nakua is the only one who's underperformed touchdowns more. It's part of who he is. He just doesn't score touchdowns, and that's what hurts him with the projections, why he's lower than Kittle, for instance. So I just look at edges like that where, okay, McBride's going earlier in drafts. I shouldn't necessarily be taking him either. I never shared it on the screen, did I? Sorry. I keep sharing it to StreamYard, but then I actually have to click.
Oh, yeah.
It's 2 steps. I always forget. But yeah. Anyway, so the projection numbers here again. Target share projections plus touchdown projections. That gives me a score. And I rank all the tight ends. Here I've got it through tight end 70. I've got 2 pages of wide receivers. I go all the way through wide receiver with 143. So it's taking those, again, target share projection numbers and utilizing them as a way to kind of fill these rankings. Again, when you find an edge like Kittle over McBride, well, use that to say, okay, my overall rankings, McBride's a lot lower than where he is conventionally. Ingram and Njoku basically having similar scores to Hawkinson, Andrews, and Kincaid. Well, those, especially Hawkins and Andrews, if they're going so much earlier than Ingram and Njoku, like I don't have them ranked that way. So those are kind of some ways where my rankings, especially at tight end, I tend to lower certain tiers of tight ends lower than the consensus. So I'm probably not going to get very much McBride. I'm probably not going to get very much Hawkinson or Andrews as a result of that. So back again to more of my strategy of being willing to go with later tight ends because I see the edges with my projections.
Yeah. I think something that came up last week is I was asking about how you account for ceiling outcomes, but I see the strategy you can employ is like, what players to fade based on like the projections more so than chase like that theoretical upside that's really just touchdown variance.
Because if you look at, say, wide receiver, I got Devontae Adams at wide receiver 8. He's not ranked that way. I think I might actually have him ranked at wide receiver 9, but I certainly don't. I'm not going to draft him at wide receiver 8 or probably even wide receiver 9. You can get away with having him later. So
I love it.
So Fantasy Dog talk about elite QB are the absolute steals of all drafts. I take them before Taylor, Hill, Higgins, So before Jonathan Taylor, before Tyreek Hill, before T. Higgins, Fancy Dog's going with Josh Allen, going with Lamar Jackson. I assume that means Jaden Daniels as well.
I do think that's right around the line. I'd probably take Taylor and Higgins before the elite quarterbacks myself, but Tyreek Hill probably is. I feel like the running back wide receiver tier list is very, very shaky after maybe the first 10 or so at each position. That's where I'd love to just go home with one of the elite quarterbacks and try and make up you have to rely on your own scouting to unearth those gems later on in the draft.
Yeah,
right?
Fancy Dog, you're sleeping on Taylor, bro. Go check out 2 months after he came back from his ankle injury. High ankle sprains take about 2 months to fully heal. He was a league winner last year.
I think you're a mute, Kyle.
Man, this is going great tonight. It's a redraft, so I'm totally thrown off. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm pretty high on Tyreek Hill. Like it's just an anecdote. For instance, here wide receiver 12 here.
I'm not a fan of Hill, man. I've been passing on him. I drafted him if I can get him in the 3rd round.
That's typically where his ADP has been, at least we've seen.
I mean, this is a dynasty show, and we all know where Hill should be ranked in dynasty. In my current startup, someone took Tyreek Hill like 6 rounds before he should have been taken. I don't know if he was thinking redraft or what, but that was insane.
Lean in the wind now. I do tend to sometimes overrank older wide receivers. So I've known to be that. So Face Dog already has a lot of Jonathan Taylor. So maybe it's a way to diversify. You're less likely to take, okay, now I'm doing more redrafts now. Don't necessarily feel like you have to get him to get exposure. That's something I deal with. We're talking about our most rostered players next week, Jamie.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. So we doing our boom, bust.
Well, yeah. Any more questions about projections? I know I talked a lot about them last week. I'm guessing not.
I mean, I don't know if you shared this combined list, but I just love to know a couple more maybe call outs that you have of like players that maybe are overdrafted or underdrafted. I feel like that's a tie-in for the next one, but maybe from the sheet specifically.
Yeah, who's really underdrafted? I would say McConkey slightly overdrafted. I've got him at wide receiver 16. I guess Metcalf being an underdrafted guy, I've got him at wide receiver 14. So Metcalf, someone where maybe I pass on a lot of other receivers so I can get Metcalf, and I feel like I can get that same type of production as a lot of these guys in that range. Say I'm for instance. I guess JSN being at 18, is that considered low? Maybe that'd be a fade for me, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, the tie-in question, but we'll go into, I think, in the next segment, just adding target share and touchdowns. I guess where my mind goes is passing volume, and that's probably, you know what I'm talking about now.
Maybe you say Zay Flowers, is that the guy you're asking about? Or Garrett Wilson?
Garrett Wilson, right? Wide receiver 13, and I'm fading him at wide receiver 15, but that's one where 27% target share makes me want to consider that, like, okay, but he has a big slice of his pie, but is his pie a lot smaller than some of the other guys going after him?
Yeah, that's fair. Total volume, yeah. Maybe that like exceptions need to be made for those type of situations. I know his touchdown number is also pretty low relative to the area as well, so that it's, less passing volume, less total passing touchdowns. So like that number gets into a little bit because of that as well.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, DK Metcalf right. Yeah, sorry, but DK Metcalf right after could be a similar example because, like that's a call that I probably want to make myself. But is that one where you have to consider like that offense wants to be like 55 like run, 45 like pass? Like is that one thing to consider in using just the sum of those two?
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Maybe the search for this new system is still greatly flawed. We'll find out. I know last year didn't quite lead to the success I wanted. I thought this year I'd try to just refine the target shares more. This is only the second year I've been doing that. Target share projections anyway. So I thought I did a better job this year of figuring out the limits of what I needed to do. Maybe I didn't. We'll find out.
That's I mean, maybe something to look at is look back at the names last year and what are the kinds of ones that your projections like over or underranked, and maybe that's a tie-in, but great stuff, Kyle.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll get to the next section, which is again the boom or bust. And so I know what we're looking at really for boom or bust is like based on ADP, or can they boom by outperforming their ADP because they're going so late, or can they are they bust because they're going to overperform, let's say. I guess before we get to that, JCT's asking, what are your thoughts on Emeka Egbuka having a strong camp? I know he was at the end of that, like just outside the top 70 on that projections list I just showed. Do we think he starts if Chris Godwin's out week 1? Like, is he a starter immediately for them, or is that still Jalen McMillan?
No,
I think he is. Yeah, he's. If anything about Egbuka that I feel like we've heard is he's a very pro-ready receiver. So I do think he starts right away.
We've talked about Egbuka all offseason. You've seen my takes on him. Dude is a beast. He owns the record for the most like catches and yards for Ohio State, and that's saying something considering who his teammates are. He could play on the inside. That's where he normally goes, but he also can play on the outside. So when Godwin comes back, Egbuka's going to move to the outside. Godwin to the inside. McMillan's going to be on the bench.
I do tend to think that too. I think we're all kind of assuming that like Egbuka's already ahead of McMillan. So yeah, I mean, to be fair, he probably fits the definition of boom because he's going late enough in drafts that he could severely outproduce his call.
Well, so he's going late, but some people do like to reach on him, especially in Dynasty. Like in my current Dynasty draft, I was expecting to take Egbuka. I forgot what round it was, but he went 3 rounds ahead of where he should have went. And I actually wasn't mad at it. I was like, that's actually a good pick, man, because you got to go get your guys in Dynasty. And if you didn't get them there, I probably would have took them somewhere before you. So good job, Jason, on taking Egbuka.
Oh, Jason was the one who took Egbuka in Dynasty. That's why I wanted to know. Like, was this a good investment? And apparently we're all saying yes. So great job, Jason.
You know how much I love the guy, man.
Imagine if I just start ripping on this anonymous league bait.
Well, I mean, he's applauding the anonymous league man, right? Like, okay, he reached out a little bit. Your guy, right?
It could have gone a different way.
Well, and it's funny because when we talk about boom, at times we're going to talk about rookie players, and I think we all talk about that safe tier at running back, whether it's 9 or 10. Who's that running back 11? And I know who I have ranked as that. Jamie, I'm curious if your boom guy is someone that you would kind of rank as that next tier, start off that next tier running back. Currently, the RB 15 in ADP, 37th overall. I know we got our ADP from Fantasy Pros. There's an ADP article on the Fantasy Six Pack website. So we got that ADP tool available as well. But go ahead, JB. Who is your boom running back?
I mean, you said 37th overall. That's insane value right there. I'm willing to put money on it. He's going to finish in the second round somewhere. So it's Amari Hampton. Think about it. He's on a good offense, right? The offensive line is great. He's got a great play caller. Najee has that eye injury. And guess what, guys? You need vision in order to run the ball. And if you don't have vision, you ain't going to run the ball. So bottom line is like Amari Hampton right now is a textbook boom for fantasy picks. His ADP is lagging well behind his draft pedigree, his immediate opportunity, and his skill set. Like the Chargers took him in the first round for a reason. He's big, he's explosive. He catch passes out of the backfield, and he's stepping into a Greg Roman offense that loves to pound the rock. So Najee, I said he was dealing with that eye injury. He's not going to play much at first, and like there's a real shot Hampton sees meaningful work right away. It's a fact. Like we're getting a late first, early second round talent in drafts in the mid to late, sometimes early fourth rounds of drafts. And if he takes over as the lead guy right away, like he's going to, you're setting yourself for a potential league winner right there. So grabbing him late gives you a potential lead back with RB1 upside at a rock bottom price in the third or fourth round.
I was gonna say 37th overall is essentially that 3-4 turn, which is fantastic. I think I'd be kind of willing to take him earlier in the third, maybe even like late second.
That's what I'm
Especially,
saying. Yeah,
I think this
301 today, but someone else fell to me. I had to take that guy.
we were talking about like robust RB builds. I would feel especially comfortable starting Bijan and then Hampton right away coming back, or Barkley Hampton. Like I like having him as a second RB to those guys, and I think that would be a good way to go with a robust RB build. But you don't even, it seems like you don't have to. Like you could go with a second player, maybe get a wide receiver and come back Hampton there. And Fantasy Dog talked about Alt would start at left tackle on 28 NFL teams. Heard that yesterday from someone. So the O-line will be fine. So Jamie, no concern about Rashawn Slater tearing his patellar tendon, being out for the season, and then
I'm fine.
Joel going from right to left. Yeah,
I
I felt that as well. And I know with running backs, a lot of it is the interior line as well. Can they get those quick, easy running lanes, and especially when you're trying to score touchdowns? Whereas the left tackle, if anything, this might incline them to run more because they feel like maybe we can't protect Justin Herbert as easily. I've always felt like when a star left tackle goes down, like Tristan Wirfs, right? Is that going to affect Bucky Irving as much as it's going to affect Baker Mayfield? Like, do they rely more on Irving because they can't protect Mayfield as much early? So, I tend to maybe think that too. Like, is this going to force them to run more than they were already planning to anyway?
I think they're going to run a lot because they have
they're probably planning to run a lot too.
Plus the old Keenan Allen, like he's basically a glorified cheerleader coming onto that offense. He ain't going to do much. You have
a 32% target share last year.
You have a rookie on one side, and then you have a guy with brick hands that can't catch balls. So,
to be fair, like of all the investments they've made in the offseason, Hampton is one of the biggest as a first-round pick. So, in theory, like that is the biggest investment they've made towards Justin Herbert in the passing game.
And if you're not a high on Hampton like I am, then you got to go get Kamani Vidal. Fun fact. Kamani Vidal is Hank Aaron's great nephew.
That's why he's a home run threat, right? I love Harbaugh as the fantasy coach, second all time to Arians. That's true. Man, Arians loves to air it out like that. They give us a lot of good fantasy totals. If you love running backs, you love Harbaugh. Sorry, Jimmy.
Greg Roman is a ground and pound play offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I think there is like certainty of what we know that offense is going to be. It's just uncertainty of the rookie running back. And it's funny, Jamie, for me, it's the total opposite. Like my boom running back, kind of in a similar range. He is the 40th overall player. So just 3 spots in overall ADP behind Hampton, RB16, so 1 running back spot below. Total opposite end of his career, though, because it's Alvin Kamara. So we've got a much older player. We know who Alvin Kamara is. We know what he's capable of, what he's going to produce, what we expect from him. What is this offense going to be with like unknowns at quarterback, essentially? Because we think there's pretty bad, but we haven't really seen much. We don't know how bad he could be. We also don't know how good he could be. Like we should give him a chance to maybe improve, but there's so much uncertainty, and it's maybe pushing Kamara down. He's another guy. After that RB10, my RB11 and 12 are Kamara and Hampton. So when I saw that you put Hampton on as your boom, I thought perfect because it's almost the same argument, but again, totally different running backs in terms of where they are at their career, different outlooks for the offense. But Kamara, like what we expect from Hampton, target earner, going to catch a lot of passes as well. So half PPR, maybe you would default to Hampton being better than Kamara, but if you're playing a full PPR redraft league, I think Kamara is a great, again, shot to take, especially like early third. If you really want to hit that robust RB build, he's a guy I'm willing to take a shot on maybe earlier than ADP, whether it's Hampton or Kamara. I think both are boom picks. So, Rahul, what do you think of our boom running backs?
I love it. I love where both the choice that you guys have had, and I love the idea of taking them even a little bit ahead of ADP to really like slam that value home at running back. I think to start with Kamara, maybe it's a quicker point for myself, but this one thing, like, yeah, Saints like going to be a pretty stinky offense, but Kellen Moore, the new head coach, is always ranked very highly in NFL for pace of play or the number of plays that his offenses have. Combined with Saints, probably not going to have the best defense either. I think this is going to be an offense that's going to have to check the ball down to Kamara many, many times in 2025. So love that call. One red flag I'd bring up is if you look at his last 2 seasons, the split in the second half, Kamara has really fallen off the map. He's often been a player that's got you to the playoffs and not really helped you once you've been there. That's one concern I would have, but I still agree with the value that you said you take him with. Hampton is the other case of that. You kind of expect the rookie to, grow leaps and bounds like down the second half of the year. I think when Hampton was drafted, you probably had that concern, like what the split is going to be like with Najee Harris, who, even if we think Hampton's better, Najee's been there, done that in the NFL. He is, like, to use another Scott Connor term, he's like an innings eater. He will like carry the ball like between the 20s as much as the team wants him to. Now, even with the Najee injury, like as serious as it is, like even if he does come back early into the season, Omari and Hampton's had this whole offseason to like get in there, get lead RB reps, like install in, during training camp. I'll have a little more confidence that even if it's a split down the line, Hampton is going to lead that. And I think with the talent, with the offense, the quarterback, the scheme, they want to run the ball. That's going to be another boom pick. And maybe like if I'm splitting the two, I think I'd have to go Hampton just because of if I have to back weight the production that comes in the playoff weeks. That's probably how I'd split that tie, but 2 great guys.
You expect rookies to, like, a rookie will by the end of the season be producing better than early season too. Like,
and compared to a 29, 30-year-old at the end of a year for a team that's not very competitive, could see that dropping off a little bit.
Maybe the hope is Jameis Winston gets there, right? Like Fantasy Dogs mentioning, like, has there ever been a better fit than Winston with these Saints with Kellen Moore at the helm?
Yeah.
Or, Ryan Fitzpatrick coming out of retirement. I guess those are the 2 options. I don't think Fitzpatrick ever played for the Saints. That'd have been a new one for him.
So I love Kamara. I think if, let's say you're in the middle of the draft, you take, let's say, CMC at the 7th or 8th pick, right? And then in the 5th round, after you already got 3 solid receivers, you could get Kamara in the 5th round as a number 2 behind CMC. That could be a league-winning duo right there.
I mean, I don't think he's quite going that late.
Yeah.
I think you probably.
I took him that late. I could show you screenshots.
I know. I mean, anyone can go anywhere in one league. But I'm saying most of the time, you probably don't want to take the risk that he falls to the 5th. Like, you probably want to take him with your 4th round. I mean, I'm saying, like, I've got him ranked as like a top 30 overall asset. So, like, I'm saying he should go in the middle of the 3rd, frankly.
But, that's way too early for me, man.
But
that's
why he's my boom player, because, like, you're saying, okay, you might be able to get him in the 5th, and he gets you that, like, almost 2.5 rounds of extra value. But
yeah, so he's a boom in the 5th, boom in the 4th. I think 3rd is maybe a little too early.
I mean, I don't know, but I guess maybe that's my overly faith in Kamara.
Kyle, if I could make the segue, because I think this is a perfect one. It's one of mine.
Well, I wanted to segue to something else. Actually.
You segued, but I have a great segue there, so maybe I'll bring it up in mine.
It was just basically, okay, like, I like your scenario, Jamie. You go McCaffrey or Henry as that first running back, and then, like, you're not quite going hero RB because you're taking, again, Kamara maybe 4th or 5th round. I think you can do that with going wide receiver early as well. Like, let's say from 107, you get Malik Neighbors. And you can get, if you manage to get Achane next, and Achane was that one guy I did kind of want to talk about. We did put him as the thumbnail image. So I thought we should at least showcase Achane a little bit. I think I think I've got him ranked as the RB7 in redraft. Yeah. So, and I think that's basically where he's going. And that's why I didn't put him as my boom, because it feels like he's in the right range. But I also think he might be one of those best picks in that early 2nd. Presume the top 8 wide receivers are gone, like Nico Collins, Brian Thomas. Those are usually the ones slipping to the 2nd. If you're just a little further back, you can't get them. Bowers is gone. To me, Achane's like maybe one of those best 2nd round picks. And I think if you have Achane, you could feel pretty confident you could pair kind of any running back with them, especially if you went receiver early, like you got a Neighbors or you got a say Puka, Achane as your like quote unquote hero RB. I think you can. He's one of those 10 that I have confidence. I could take Achane as a hero RB, but you can also pair him later with a guy. So, do we still feel confident in Achane as the RB4 in Dynasty? Just because I want to do a little Dynasty tie into our show.
I think so. I think so. I mean, Achane is my 9th overall player in half PPR right now. So if I
redraft or
in redraft. But
wow. So
I'm very confident in his ability to finish. Like I think Achane is going to finish as a high-end RB1, but he's one of those players that has overall running back 1 in their range of outcomes. That's not something you can say about a lot of players. I think, above that, only CMC, Gibbs, Bijan, Saquon, and Derrick Henry this season, 2025, have running back 1 in their outcomes. Genty could in future years, but to tie that back to your question, I feel very confident with him as my RB4 in Dynasty because of what his ceiling could be.
I still have him as RB4. The thing is, he is quarterback dependent. We've seen it when Tua got hurt. If you're high on Tua, you have to be high on Achane. They go hand in hand. If Tua goes down, Achane takes a huge dip.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's one red flag. To just add to that, Achane always has like double the injury risk of a lot of other players. It's not just his own injury risk as a running back, but also undersized running back. But as JD said,
and Van Dogs play that, right? Like there's so many of these sub 200-pound running backs now. I mean, talk about Jahmyr Gibbs as RB2 across the board in Dynasty, and I'm pretty sure he's below 200. So,
exactly.
Definitely.
All right. So what are we on next? Next player?
Well, I think we're going to go to Rahul's move, and we're going to change positions here to go to a wide receiver. And it'll tie in. And Rahul, you can talk about your bust after, and why one guy who's going super early is a bust when you can get that same production. In fact, if you want to talk about both now and go right to your bust, because you've already mentioned him in theory, we're going to talk about the projections time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of segue I wanted to make because Hampton Kamara, the tier, late third that you might need to reach a little bit ahead of ADP to get. That's where you're coming directly in contact or making the decision of picking someone like Garrett Wilson, who is my bust, at least today. One of the many busts I'm sure I'll have and have talked about in the past. But Garrett Wilson is, I think, a pretty strong talent. He's a very good wide receiver, and I just struggle to see him pay off. Maybe not wide receiver 15. He's wide receiver 16 in my ranking, so it's not too much of a slip. But at 34th overall, I don't like the opportunity cost of missing out on, the RB 11 through 14 or the last of those elite quarterbacks. The George Kittle is where it kind of gets interesting. That's maybe directly the line I'll have, but
Garrett I was going to say, I think, again, based on my projections, Kittle at 2, I think I want to take that shot on Kittle here rather than take a shot on Garrett Wilson. So I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, exactly. And Garrett Wilson, like I said, great player. He has pedigree. He now has a long-term contract. Well, he's not done that much for fantasy football. In half PPR, he's finished as wide receiver 31, 40, and 23 in points per game in the last 3 years. And this is with humongous target shares already. I think 2 years ago, he had 31% based on your stats, Kyle, and then came down to 26 or 30% in 2023, 26% in 2024. Projected for 27%. That's where I go back to my pie analogy. I just worry Garrett Wilson's pie is going to be a lot smaller than, other wide receivers around that, but certainly the volume that running backs going in this range are going to have. I think you had him. You had the Jets with bottom 4 in touchdowns in 2024, 432 pass attempts, and Garrett Wilson only projected 5 touchdowns. And this is where, when you layer in that the Justin Fields impact, I just worry this offense is not going to have the passing volume to sustain someone who's being drafted in the top 3 rounds. I'd rather have some of those running backs, or I'd rather wait a little bit and talk about a wide receiver boom in a second. But just to go give you guys a chance to talk about Garrett Wilson. I know people say Justin Fields, Ohio State connection. Justin Fields supported DJ Moore at wide receiver 10 season in in half PPR a couple of years ago. But what do you guys think about Garrett Wilson and like kind of the value of wide receiver in context to Hampton and Kamara, that tier of running back?
So for me, Garrett Wilson, I've seen him go early third. I've seen him go mid third. I haven't seen him fall past the mid third. I'm starting to kind of chill out on him a little bit. I'd rather have like a Devontae Adams maybe, just for that touchdown upside. But Amari and Hampton, like I just said, I'm going to take Amari and Hampton now over Garrett Wilson. But after that, well, JSN. I'd rather take JSN over Garrett Wilson.
I have JSN one spot above, but I would take him.
But after that, you mentioned Kittle, you'd have to reach a whole half a round to take Kittle before Garrett Wilson, because Kittle goes late third when Wilson's going mid to early third. And I don't mind that. Like if McBride's gone, I've gotten McBride at the 302 in a draft. And that's usually around where I've seen Garrett Wilson go. But if McBride's gone, I don't mind taking a Kittle over Garrett Wilson. You mentioned the pie. The pie, he's going to get a whole bunch of that pie, right? But it's not going to be quality pie. It's going to be bought at the corner store from the dollar store, right? Like,
it says it's from New York, but it's actually from New Jersey.
But yeah, no, Garrett
Sorry,
Wilson,
Brian Ford.
Going out on him a little bit. I do love him for Dynasty, but redraft, I don't know, man.
Now here's one. Just that same team, that same Jets office. You're forced to take a Jets player. Are you taking Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall?
Oh, man.
Oh, I'm taking Garrett Wilson over Breece Hall.
I'm also taking Garrett Wilson over Breece Hall.
That was my lean, but I think the threshold you already mentioned, we'll take Hampton pretty clearly. I'll take Kamara. I guess maybe you guys could push back if you're not going to take Kamara over Wilson. I guess the next few running backs I get to are Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker, and Chase Brown.
Bucky, I'm taking over. Chase Brown, it's a toss-up, but who's your other one?
Ken Walker.
Ken Walker, no. I'm not taking Ken Walker over him.
I'm taking all those running backs over Garrett Wilson. I think the line I'm kind of seeing is I'd also take James Cook now with the contract over Garrett Wilson. And the line I'm kind of seeing is Chuba Hubbard and Garrett Wilson is where I'd probably go. Garrett, I might want to take Garrett Wilson there.
Well, I'm taking Garrett Wilson like a full 2 rounds ahead of Hubbard.
Yeah, but that's why he's my bust player.
Rahul's argument is he shouldn't be going in the mid third, right? Like,
yeah, mid third is where he should be going. Early third, I could see him being a bust. And I'm not gonna lie, I've taken him early third. I wasn't happy about it. It's just the guys that were going around him. I wasn't like Marvin Harrison, T. Higgins.
Oh, I love T. Higgins. But
well, so do I. But like those are the players that I'm kind of going after because T. Higgins is number 2 in that offense, high volume. But Garrett Wilson is the number 1.
But think of how amazing T. Higgins' pie is. Even if he's second to the pie, he's got a great pie over there.
We all love pie, especially that poontang.
Okay. I was going to say something about striped pie because it's Bengals, but yeah, let's never change your stripes, Jamie. So I don't even know how to transition for that, but I guess, yeah. You could talk about, now Jamie just dropped a boom on us, so you may as well drop your boom. Who's a player? So, Rahul, it sounds like you think Wilson shouldn't be going in the third at all, and you should be going like maybe even several rounds later. You've got a guy that you think is probably comparable to Wilson in production, but rather than going, 34th overall with Wilson, this is a player you're getting a nice value, 69th overall.
Very nice value. I'm fading the third round, 3-4 turn wide receiver when I can get talents like George Pickens at the back end of the 6th.
Fancy dog is awesome.
The last couple of minutes of it have been devastating for a rating, but what it will not be devastating for your fantasy teams is drafting George Pickens, who made that switch over to the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. I mean, we just mentioned T. Higgins there. Why can't George Pickens be the T. Higgins of the NFC? I kind of see the Cowboys being the NFC version of the Bengals in what should be an explosive passing game with a team that's not, honestly, that I expect Micah Parsons to sign, but with or without Parsons, the Cowboys defense is not going to hold up against the teams that they have to play this year, starting with the Eagles in week 1. But I just think this is going to be an offense that's going to have to pass the ball a ton to keep up. The Bengals at least had Chase Brown in kind of a run game. He was using it through the air a lot, but the Cowboys have no run game to speak of with Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue, and perhaps even Phil Maffa. I think the answer actually is Dak Prescott there and throwing to CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Really why, like, you could insert any default wide receiver there and they'd probably be kind of a value, but George Pickens, I think, fits so well with what CeeDee Lamb does. He allows Lamb to play a lot more on the inside, whereas Pickens is probably going to run a lot of, hitch routes, go routes, like try to stretch the field a little more. But if CeeDee is covered and Pickens has a one-on-one, I feel pretty confident that Dak's going to find him there. So going with the value, that 3-round difference, I think Pickens in half PPR especially is going to score enough touchdowns to where even if a Garrett Wilson type gets 20 to 30 more receptions than him, Pickens has an 8-touchdown season. That's going to cut the gap all the way for someone you can get with a 3-round discount. So I think, again, like, I do want to kind of, it's more about tiers. It's never really, it's kind of about player takes, but it's more about tiers, like, and finding like your sweet spot in drafts. And I'd much rather take the shot at the wide receivers going, like 5th, 6th round. Like, I can name like a Travis Hunter. I like Rome Odunze. Dare I say Matthew Golden has been getting a lot of camp buzz since our Dynasty Court episode. Yeah. But I see those guys attached to better offenses that I'd rather take the shot on there for my wide receiver than Garrett Wilson. So George Pickens is my boom this year.
Love it. Fun fact, George Pickens is the great nephew of legend Bo Jackson. Love the guy.
I mean, at a certain point, we're all just humans. We're all part of the human family anyway.
So I've been
not related to anything at all here.
I've been in a lot of drafts lately, and I see George Pickens on the board next to guys like Jameson Williams, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, and Xavier Worthy. And I'm like, I really want Pickens because it's going to be a high volume offense where they're going to pass it a lot because they don't have a running back. They don't have good running backs. They're going to pass it. So
it's the pie you want, right? You talk about the Joe Burrow pie. Like, what could the
I want that pie from like the bakery as opposed to the corner store.
Yeah. The artisan pie.
You have to get them in like the 4th round of my drafts, and I don't hate it there, depending on who's left.
He's going at 69th overall. 69.
No, in my current Dynasty startup where I'm with Jason, and I got him in the 8th freaking round, dude. That's a steal.
Yeah. And I just want to fantasy dog. I mean, brings up a very valid point, right?
I'm getting hungry too, to be honest. I want pie now.
but fantasy, that's a good point too. But fantasy dog's point about Pickens not proving it yet, that's absolutely true. We've only seen Pickens really break out in brief stretches. He's almost been more of a, he's got a lot of great catches, but he's not a great pass catcher yet.
He's never had a quarterback.
Huh?
He's never had a good quarterback.
He's never had a good quarterback. He is.
Russell Wilson's a good quarterback.
But if you really look at the splits, there actually were very few games that Wilson played that Pickens is also healthy in. Because Wilson came into the starting lineup. Pickens finally started doing well last year and then immediately got injured and had a pretty injury-torn second half of the season. So the quarterback, I mean, some of it is down to Pickens as well, who is a bit of a nutcase. But I think, and this is like just anecdotal. There's no stats based. It's vibes based. He has not signed a long-term contract. Pickens decided to bet on himself and contract year. This is the kind of guy.
Don't love
that I
it for
think is-
Dynasty, but love it for redraft, right?
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a huge year to prove a lot of. He has George Pickens has numerous haters. He's gonna have a huge year to prove the haters wrong. So,
So the one thing with the Dak Prescott offense specifically, the tight end has always been featured.
I mean, the Joe
And is it
Milton
also
offense.
sorry?
The Joe Milton offense. You said Dak Prescott.
Yeah, Dak, stop, Jamie. Well, because like the problem with what I'm about to talk about, Jamie, is the history of Dak Prescott target players. We don't have a history of Joe Milton, so like he's played one game in the NFL. Like we have nothing to say for like how is he going to target? Like we know. My point is Dak Prescott targets the tight ends a ton. Typically, the tight end is the second target on the team, but is George Pickens talented enough to make Dak look that way? I know the way I've projected it in target share, I have it that way that Pickens is a higher target share than Ferguson. So I do think Pickens is a sign that this offense is ready to evolve in a certain way. It's a new head coach as well with Schottenheimer. So maybe a different offense than what we've expected from Dak in the past. And I'm willing to make that bet on Pickens as well. It goes more through Pickens than it will through Jake Ferguson. Ferguson's still very likely going to be third on the team in targets, but maybe not. The tight end isn't always the second target like it has been. So
We've seen it in the past with Brandon Cooks and
exactly. Yeah.
tried to put at the number 2 long ball. It's going to be Pickens. Pickens is going to be great.
There was definitely a year where Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup both had like 110 targets, and yeah, Witten was not as big a factor as those two were. I think it was Pickens. So yeah, that's maybe the one hesitation, but I do think Pickens overcomes that, Rahul, and I do like the boom. Now I think JV, it's funny because our busts are players that are going in this similar range. I've got Jameson Williams, 63rd overall, just ahead of George Pickens, wide receiver 27 compared to wide receiver 29 Pickens. Your bust is Jerry Jeudy, 77th overall, wide receiver 34. So according to this range of ADP, I think an argument for the reason we have Williams and Jeudy as bust is because there's guys like Pickens we would just much rather have.
Yeah, give me JMO all day over my bust. What, Jerry Jeudy, right?
Well, I'm saying give me Pickens all day over both. That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, 100%. Best ball is different. Maybe I would take JMO over Pickens in best ball.
You see, to me, Pickens is the type of guy you want in best ball, right? Like the deep catches, like the high touchdown upside. So both Pickens and Williams are that, right? So to me, I'd rather Pickens in both formats, like best ball or redraft. I feel like the reason you want JMO in best ball is the same reason that Pickens would be elevated in best ball as well, right? You ignore the boot weeks, which you might have, but I don't know, and I think that's just why Williams is my bust, because I look at a guy because Rahul filled it out first. You see that, okay, that's his boom. And then I'm looking through ADP range and the difference between Williams, because he's going at wide receiver 27. I've got him ranked at wide receiver 47 for redraft. So I think that's to me why he's my bust. It's just I've got him ranked a lot lower.
So I'm looking at a current draft. I just took JMO in this draft at the 9th round, right? Pickens went 7-4. No, 7-9. And I got JMO at 9-5. So almost 2 rounds later over Pickens. So would you rather have JMO 2 rounds later or Pickens 2 rounds earlier?
I'd probably have JMO at that point.
You see, I think you said 7th round.
Yeah, it was 7.
I mean, this almost sounds like the McLaurin in the 8th, Addison in the 11th keeper question, right? And I think it's late enough. I'll just take the value on Pickens. If I think he's a value in the 5th round, it doesn't matter that Williams is more of a value later. Him being a value in the 5th round to me is worth it. So no, I'll the way I've got it ranked, I'll stick with Pickens. I'll take that. I don't want the 2-round discount. I'll take that.
Oh, I got him so close.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where I'm going to take the
guy
2 rounds later.
No,
if it falls 2 rounds after JMO, yeah, give me JMO.
I know why I've got this. It's because I'm projecting Laporta to get more targets than Williams this year. He's higher in target share for me, and that's why in my rankings Williams gets boosted down because I don't have him repeating what he did last year. I have Laporta going back as the second target in the offense. So that's the narrative I'm saying with Williams, why I've been kind of cooling down on Williams.
Yeah, I think I would actually have to push back at you, Kyle. Just I think at that value with it's for me, it's a very, very similar bet to Pickens. I think Pickens has a little more projectable volume, but Jameson Williams, I don't know if you have his points per game finish last year handy, but he did what he did in what I would call his breakout season I think he only had one game above 5 catches. It's a much parroted stat on Twitter. Let me see. Do you have his points per game finish? He finished as wide receiver 20 last year, and when the price is wide receiver 27 on what he's done, I feel pretty confident because he didn't really have a high target year. Kind of the stick I used to beat Sam Laporta with, but I think Jameson Williams has more repeatable traits in what he can do on the field. A lot of people just think he's out there running a lot of deep routes, and that's where he gets his fantasy points. But Jameson Williams amongst the top of the league in yards after catch because the way the lines would get him open on those shallow crossing routes, and then he has just a ton of green grass to run into. So I feel okay with JMO in that range, but it's kind of just a similar bet to a higher touchdown upside player where I can probably build around his bust weeks enough for where his boom weeks, 20+ point games, could win me weeks.
So
Fantasy Dog asking, is there a standard roster size to fantasy rosters? I know redraft you'll usually be below 20. I typically say above 20. I know I am in a dynasty league where we only have 19. It's an RSO league, salary cap contract league, so maybe that's what bridges the gap. But when it's dynasty, I typically see 24 as anywhere between 24 and 30.
I like to go 30, at least 29 to 30 plus taxi.
And I think that's good if you're going to have enough starters. You wouldn't want 30 roster spots if you're only starting 8, right? If you have a start 10. I don't necessarily love tripling it. You're essentially there's twice as many bench spots as.
Oh, you're going to want that during the rookie drafts because you're going to have people on your roster that you don't want to drop.
But that's what makes interesting decisions, right? That's part of it is we want to. There is a way to calculate it, right? Based on the number of starters, there should be a percentage for where your bench is because you want it to be interesting enough. There might actually be players on the waivers, the waiver aspect of Dynasty, that comes into it. And then again, you're maybe having to make cut decisions on players that you wouldn't normally. So you don't want too many roster spots in Dynasty.
We lost Rahul. But I wanted to get into my bust, Jerry Jeudy, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you got to look at last year. He finished wide receiver 12. But you got to look under the hood on why that happened. So most of that production came with a small stretch, which was with Jameis Winston at quarterback. He was feeding him high volume downfield targets. But outside of that run, he was that same old up and down Jerry Jeudy we've seen for years. Now with the different quarterback situations, more competition for targets because with Tillman healthy, you got Njoku. They bring in Fannin, possibly the Deontay Johnson. The Browns will be playing from behind, and it's just gonna, in my opinion, it's just gonna feed the tight end and Njoku a ton. So I'm expecting him to maybe pay off. His ADP is risky to me because you're basically dealing with hoping that lightning strikes twice. And I don't think it's going to happen. How often does lightning strike twice in the same position? He needs volume. He needs that volume to produce. And only catching 62% of his passes, which is wide receiver 90. His low touchdown totals, his quarterback carousel issues. I'm staying away from him in drafts at his current ADP price. Earlier in the offseason, I was all on him because I was getting him 2 rounds later. Now you have to take him 2 rounds ahead, and I'm completely out. And you should be too. So I'm okay with taking him past his ADP, but at his ADP, I'm completely out.
One thing I would push back on is like the whole lightning strikes twice thing is he's not being priced at wide receiver 12 though. Like his price right now isn't indicative of him repeating what he did last year. So I don't like I would rather have Jerry Jeudy than Jameson Williams. I think just projectable target volume as what I expect will be the lead target on the Browns. I mean, if they lose a lot of games, I think that's high enough volume. I don't think it's just going to feed the tight ends. I think Flacco will feed the top targets. That includes Njoku, but to me, that starts with Jerry Jeudy. Because that's the one thing, even when he's not catching the ball, he's been a target earner his whole career. So I think
I mean, Jeudy goes 2 rounds later than JMO.
Perfect. And that's why I don't want to have Jameson Williams. Like,
I dare say, like, tell me what really is the difference between Garrett Wilson and Jerry Jeudy. It's a lot of projectable volume.
And back to why he's a bust for you, right? Like it all ties together, right?
And you know, like why I don't mind Jerry Jeudy in a redraft format. I'm a little more hesitant best ball, but I think like in redraft, drafting the wide receiver 37 and getting like the wide receiver 28 actually is kind of a win because you need to fill out all the slots in your lineup on a consistent basis, right? You have to put someone into your lineup and start them. And Jerry Jeudy, I could see still have a very projectable like 10 to 11 points in your flex spot, like week in, week out, to where that if I could pair Jameson Williams and Jerry Jeudy like back to back, if I'm trying to get an upside swing and then a safe swing, that's not too bad of a strategy to build out a wide receiver room. So
you asked, what's the difference between Jerry Jeudy and Garrett Wilson? Would you rather have a guy that catches like 60% of his passes or a guy that actually catches, I don't know, 70 to 90%?
But how many passes
I don't think anyone has a 90% catch rate, by the way.
Yeah, but how many passes is Justin Fields going to throw or Flacco /
a sleeper?
Well, and that's the name I want to bring up. Like, so do you think Shedeur will start sooner rather than later? I think Fancy Dog wants to know your take. So just real quick.
Shedeur can't throw it 40 yards down the field.
Can I ask the question first? I think you already gave the answer. Who's better for Jerry Jeudy? Joe Flacco or Shedeur Sanders?
It's going to be Flacco.
I'm not saying it's going to be. Who's better for Jeudy?
Flacco.
I think it's Flacco pretty easily. So the idea of Fantasy Dog, right? Like just because Fantasy Dog's mentioning it seems like he's invested a lot in Jeudy already, maybe hoping for Shedeur. I think the opposite. If you've invested a lot in Jeudy, you want Flacco to be there as long as possible because you know what you're getting a consistent target.
That's why I made the comment about best ball, especially tournaments, because who the hell is going to be throwing the ball for the Cleveland Browns in the Cleveland winter, in week 17, right? I will say how Shedeur played over, in the last preseason game gave me a little bit more confidence for the Browns. Like he could be competent enough to like get the ball to Jerry Jeudy, but I think like at wide receiver 37, I'm okay then just going on a gross volume bet at the wide receiver position.
So Cam the Ham here, and then we'll get to our sleepers really quick. Who do you think I should pick at the 10-11 in a 10-man half PPR?
Go after either Neighbors, Nico with your first, whoever's there, and then with your second back-to-back pick, take Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Well, I've got all those guys ranked ahead of 11. Derrick Henry's my 8th overall player. Neighbors is 7th.
Well, then you got so many more players. CMC, Puka.
Yeah, so like they're trying to list. Like, okay, so let's think. Who are the 10 best players? Like, so I think you eliminate in half PPR Gibbs, Bijan, Barkley. You assume those 3 are gone. Chase, Edie, and Jefferson are probably gone. You get to 6. So from 7 through. Like I've got Neighbors at 7, Henry at 8, McCaffrey at 9. If any of those 3 players are there at 10, I think they're easy picks. So let's assume they're all gone. Like you don't get the choice between them. You're having to pick between Ashton Genty, Puka Nacua with Stafford's back issues, Amon-Ra St. Brown in half PPR format, which maybe isn't as good as full PPR, or like you said, Nico Collins, Thomas, and the shot at Brock back. I think that's like if McCaffrey's there, I think it's really easily McCaffrey. But assuming he's not there, you have to make a tough choice. Sounds like you said Nico Collins, Jamie.
So I just started a 10-man team. It's a best ball. I had the 9th pick, right? So I was debating between Nico, Puka, CMC, Henry. And I went with Nico at 9. And I was like, well, I'll pick Henry with my next pick. But CMC fell. So you could get Nico with Henry or CMC.
I think the risk of CMC makes him like if you believe if you're
someone-
willing to take the risk, just take him. If you're not willing to take the risk, and don't take him in, right? Like it's as simple as that. Like it's so binary. If he's there, you either take him or you don't, right? Like if he's worth the risk, and like if you don't think he's worth the risk, then what are the alternatives? Right? And I do think Henry is a great alternative. Honestly, in half PPR, if I can go Henry and McCaffrey, I'll hammer that robust start, and I'll worry about wide receiver later. That would be my ideal start. My fear is that neither McCaffrey or Henry is there. And then you're having to, do you take the risk on Genty as a rookie?
You're going to get so much value if they're gone.
And you're saying like that's when you get a Puka and a Nico Collins together.
Or Neighbors or whoever.
I've got Neighbors at 7, so I'm assuming Neighbors will be gone, right? Like the way I've ranked it, like Genty is my 10th player, like with all those other guys gone. But that includes like below Genty are Puka, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas, and Nico Collins. So if any of those receivers are there, it makes sense to pair one with Genty if like that's how you want to balance it out. But again, if Henry or McCaffrey falls, they're the picks to take in half PPR. Right?
Yeah, are you willing?
Yes.
Well, exactly. Are you willing to start with 2 running backs in that situation? Do you would you prefer the flexibility?
Not in a 10 because when it comes back to you, you're going to be stuck with the McLaurin as your 1.
That's the worry where I would love to lock in one of those elite running backs, but also that young wide receiver tier. Even in half PPR, Kyle. But
so you're thinking stay balanced, right? Like to Cam, like
stay balanced at that point.
One of each. Take the best running back available. Take the best wide receiver.
Yeah, because then when it comes back to you, get a Kittle.
Yeah,
with your 3rd pick,
and your team's balanced. You don't feel like you're losing.
Then decide between Hampton and McLaurin.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about sleepers really quick, and it's like to the point of why we think maybe Judy could be a bust or Williams could be a bust is Michael Pittman's going 129th overall, wide receiver 50, and then that's my sleeper. Jamie's sleeper is Darnell Mooney, 144th overall, wide receiver 54. I have both of them ranked inside my top 40. So the fact that they're going outside like top 40 positionally, wide receiver. So I loved your sleeper take, Jamie.
I love yours. I've been taking a lot of Pittman.
It's the same argument. It's maybe offenses where the pie doesn't look that great, especially with the Colts. But I mean, again, like Pittman could be a target leader just like Judy, but later, just like Garrett Wilson, but a lot later, even if it's an offense that we don't quite love, especially for the upside purposes. But for sheer volume, like just a guy who could lead his team in targets to get him that late, I think it's crazy. And then Mooney probably won't lead his team in targets, but there's enough volume he showed last year, I think.
Yeah,
like I think
Downs team in targets is very likely.
Yeah, Downs is one of my favorite targets, and he's going at like a full round, maybe 2 rounds ahead of Pittman. But you got to remember, Pittman's back was injured last year. He played through it. He's fully healthy now.
It went from he could go to IR to he's playing this week. And then he missed. I think he ended up missing the next week. He ended up missing 1 game from that. But like the panic of he could go on injured reserve to he's actually not going to miss a single game. He's just going to play right through it. Yeah, it was wild. I agree. I have Pittman ranked higher than Downs, even though I know with ADP it's not like that at all. So I'm going to bet on Pittman having year.
If Pittman's gone at the point in the draft, I'll take Mooney because I think Mooney could be a sleeper. Honestly, sneaky late round guy. Like I feel like this guy, like he's super cheap, going way too late just for what he did last year. He almost had 1,000 yards last year, only missed 1 game. He averaged 12.1 points per game, finishing as the overall wide receiver 31 in full PPR. I know we're talking half, but full PPR, that's what I play. He was wide receiver 31. And nope, nothing has really changed in that offense. Like they didn't add any target competition, right? Still expect him to get 6-7 targets per game. He was top 16 overall in air yards. He was getting 33% of the team's air yards last year. That's crazy for air yards. Like that catch rate he had was 91.4%. You just mentioned earlier. Who's getting over 90% of?
I meant for their career.
Well, last year he had 91.
But that's insane. Like 90 for any given season is crazy.
That's his true catch rate, and he's catching the ball.
True catch rate.
Every single one of his catchable targets, he's bringing down. So, with his blazing speed, like he's got that blazing speed. He can go downfield. That's what we want for those boom weeks, right? We want those big weeks that could ultimately win you a matchup that week. So, name a player in that area that can do that. There's not many.
Yeah,
so,
wide receiver 54, right? Like outside top 50, you really can't get that upside. He was
you gotta find the roughs, man, and this guy is one of them. Like you're getting him for basically nothing in drafts. Like that's the kind of sleeper that can sneak into your lineup and actually stay there. So you're not paying anything close to his ceiling.
Just to last year, Jamie, he was wide receiver 36 and half PPR. Right.
Yeah,
so you're that's almost 20 wide receiver spots later.
If you actually get him where he's going and he reaches that's his ceiling, right? And you got a legit play in your flex spot where you're getting basically for free. And that's it.
Okay, Rahul, your sleeper is Ray Davis.
It is Ray Davis, but if I could ask one Mooney related keeper question, because I do love Mooney, I'm a little concerned about the injury he sustained. Raheem Morris has had a bit of, not convincing comments, but I could choose to keep Xavier Worthy in the 5th round or Darnell Mooney in the 10th round. What do you guys think there?
Sorry, can you say the first name again?
Xavier Worthy in the 5th or Mooney in the 10th?
Okay, I'm taking Mooney or Xavier Worthy because I think Worthy goes in like the 4th, but like Mooney goes
later. Yeah, for us, all players drafted round 11 or later default to round 10 value. So I don't really get all the value.
If that's the case, I would just keep Worthy. Yeah,
no question.
You're really being punished for keeping those super late players. You may as well keep the higher upside.
Yeah.
You're keeping Worthy.
Or I could decide not to keep. I mean, I don't have to keep Worthy. Would you guys keep Worthy in the 5th round?
Yeah, because he's going like in the 4th, and you got to remember in keeper leagues, how many do you keep?
Keep 2. Yeah, I think I counted like maybe 10 salaries that would.
Well, it sounds like, is it 2 max? Like, could you in theory keep 0?
Yeah, you could keep 0 to 2. 0 to 2.
You're essentially keeping him for a 7th round pick because if you already keep 2 players, that's 24 off the board, and you've got them in the 5th. Like that's 7th round.
I get JB's point, right? It'd almost have to be 2 rounds too early. Like you'd have to be a 3rd round pick to say, okay, that's just too early.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I'd keep Worthy in the 5th. I mean, he could emerge as the Chiefs' alpha wide receiver, like wide receiver 1 right away. Like the Rice breakout last year, maybe it doesn't last, and it's now a Worthy breakout. Patrick Mahomes wants that Tyreek Hill type deep target guy. Like that is the range of outcomes. I'd at least keep him in and see what it's like when they're all on the field together.
Yeah.
Do we have any more sleepers?
Yeah, Ray Davis. Very, very ill-timed episode as James Cook just signed a multi-year extension today, locking him in with the Buffalo Bills. But I really don't think the hypothesis changes too much. James Cook only had 49% of the running back snaps last year. We've talked a lot about his chance for regression in touchdowns after hitting 16 last year. I think a lot of those opportunities could go to Ray Davis, even if James Cook is healthy. Of course, a lot of the spiel I had is weakened by that contract. They do see James Cook as a guy, but even if you reduce Ray Davis to just a handcuff, this is going to be one of the NFL's top scoring offenses. Had 32 rushing touchdowns last year. So even with the Josh Allen effect, it's a team that wants to run the ball inside the 5. And I think Ray Davis has, there are different handcuffs you could target maybe with clearer situations or worse running backs in front of them. But if I'm putting a handcuff running back in for a spot start, I want to make sure that running back has, difference making upside. Like Ray Davis in his one game with James Cook injured, I think he had 16 half PPR points. He had like 150 yards from scrimmage, didn't score a touchdown. And I just think that's what you could get with yet another sub 200-pound back. It would be a little more convincing again if he hadn't trained at all, but he has returned to training today. But even with James Cook, I still do like Ray Davis at his what is the price tag? We have him 142nd overall. You're taking him in your like 12th round after you've built out your team. Stack your bench with some upside shots like a Ray Davis.
The hero 0 RB builds. This is the types of player you're filling your benches with, the Ray Davis types, and he is certainly one of the better ones, I think, of the backup running backs.
I just want to say I love Ray Davis. I've been taking him a lot in my drafts because I think he could get over that 26 to 30% snap share even as a backup. But when he is the starter, last year he played 2 games as a starter and he was RB 14 in the first one, and then he was finished as RB 14 in the second game.
Consistent. So one of those without a touchdown, right? Like it's tough to be RB 14 without a touchdown.
You're getting a high end RB 2 as a starter. So give me him all day.
Yeah. I mean, and Fantasy Dog brings up Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson, does have a random role, but I think he has a very specialized role that I think if James Cook goes down, the rushing work is all going to be with Ray Davis. Ty Johnson is kind of that pass catching back.
60 to 70% of the snaps. It's for
those
Ray
2
Davis.
games where he started. Yeah.
Yes. So give me that all day as a backup where he's going. Plus, I think he can have standalone value if they give him a little bit more work.
Let's just say they couldn't be like a poor man Montgomery Gibbs, right? With an offense that loves to run the ball.
The problem I think with Ty Johnson is that his floor is so low. That,
He's
it's going to get touchdown week here, random touchdown week there. Like whereas he doesn't elevate in an obvious way if Cook is hurt, whereas Ray Davis does. So I like the Ray Davis call. All right, now we'll get to our trade of the week. This is a 12-team start 12. This is from Michael Taylor from the Fantasy Six Pack Discord. I remembered mentioning it earlier. You can get all access membership to fantasy6pack.net and the Discord at a 15% reduced rate with the promo code F6PPODS, F6PPODS. And this trade of the week, mentioned from our Fantasy Six Pack Discord. Taylor brought it there. There's actually 2 trades that you want to talk about with the same league, and we chose this one to discuss. It's a 12-team start 12 super flex league. PPR scoring and tight ends get 1.5 points per reception. 2 for 2, a quarterback and a non-quarterback. Baker Mayfield and Chase Brown on one side for Caleb Williams and DJ Moore on the other. Any thoughts you guys want to share?
I mean, for me, start 12 people like Baker is way below Caleb for me, at least 10 spots. DJ Moore and Chase Brown are kind of equal, but I still want DJ Moore over Chase Brown.
It's an interesting trade where I think the value is with Caleb and DJ Moore, but I feel like I'd have a lot of fun with the Baker Chase Brown side, especially in a contending team.
Yeah, I could see that side, but I think you're going to lose a lot of value. You should have asked for at least a second round pick to make it more even. So if you give me that second round pick on that Baker side, I would probably choose that side.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it, I think.
But you also got Caleb, DJ Moore stack. Stacks win you.
For now.
But even if it's not, like, talent-wise, Chase Brown ain't much. Like, he was a third-round pick, right? Fourth round. I don't
That
see
felt
him.
like some Kyron Williams hate too, right? Like, isn't that the same thing we were talking about Kyron Williams for years?
I don't see
He's
Chase
producing.
Brown maintaining his RB14 value in Dynasty much longer.
Well, very few running backs sustain it. I mean, what's DJ Moore's value right
I'd say, like,
Wide
now?
receiver
Yeah.
28.
How old is DJ Moore too?
20.
Is-
He's
like,
he just
Because
turned 28.
okay,
Just turned 28.
because he was like, I remember he and Calvin Ridley came out the same year, but I guess Calvin Ridley was an older prospect at that point. DJ Moore was young. 28, yeah, okay. So, I'll be honest. I don't have Caleb Williams 10 spots lower than Baker Mayfield. Like, I actually have Baker Mayfield higher than Caleb in Dynasty. I've
see? Wow.
fantasy court. You kind of convinced me a bit on Drake May. Not gonna lie, we talked about fantasy dynasty court. I went from Drake May at QB 17. I've actually raised him into the QB 1 range. So that's maybe some official news I should have led with. That I've moved Drake May up to QB 12. A couple of those guys he elevated were Baker Mayfield, among others. I can't with Caleb yet because I don't think he's the rusher that May is, and I really need to see him improve as a passer. To me, he and Trevor Lawrence, they're kind of stuck in that, outside the top 15 in Dynasty for me. And I'd rather straight up just invest in Baker because I think Rahul said, if I'm a win now team, I definitely want Baker and Brown. And if I'm a rebuilder, I don't really want DJ Moore. So I'm taking Baker and Chase Brown side. I think right now, Chase Brown, you can move him more easily than DJ Moore, which is weird because usually the running backs are inflexible. I think there's so much stink on DJ Moore. There's so little ADV that I actually think Brown is the more movable object in terms of more liquidity, more flexibility to trade with. So I'll go with the better quarterback for the points and what I view as the better liquid asset.
I mean, just age-wise, Caleb has to be in the top 12. Baker has to be closer to the top 20.
Not to me, doesn't. I'll still default to points on the quarterbacks that score enough points. I can talk.
You don't see a scenario where Caleb Williams can outscore Baker this year?
Sure, there's a scenario. I think there's a lot more scenarios where Baker outscores Caleb.
I completely hear you on the points, but I've definitely cooled on Caleb as the summer's gone on. There seems like, Ben Johnson wants a very rigid approach, and Caleb Williams is not a quarterback that thrives in rigidity. So maybe I have a little more concerns about how it's going to work out. But I tend to think that Caleb Williams will, succeed in this offensive scheme with the weapons that he has around him. DJ Moore aside, they just drafted 2 top 40 receiving threats. So I do have faith in Caleb, and I think as high as you could put Baker Mayfield, his value is probably never going to be higher than where it is right now in Dynasty. And Caleb Williams is one of those assets that Caleb Williams could be a top 5 Dynasty asset next year if things fall right. If Caleb Williams, Caleb
top
Williams,
5 Dynasty asset. You're talking ahead of Burrow.
I think so.
Beautiful pie of Burrow.
I keep harping on the point of Stroud and Daniels rising to 101. Caleb in his second year, heading to his third year, I think has. I mean, even if you don't put top 5, first round startup value, I don't think that's so unreasonable to think in Superflex. Whereas Baker's not going to go higher than where he is right now in Dynasty rankings because of his age. He's not a running quarterback. He could have had, Kyle, he had a 7% touchdown to attempt ratio last year. 7%, right? He could have easily had his best.
Probably going to drop.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think the values on the Caleb side, but yeah, out a second to the Baker Chase Brown side, I think I'd like it a lot more.
I guess when it comes to elevation, I mean, if Caleb, because definitely not where my rankings are, but Caleb's regularly being ranked as the top 8. Like Jamie said, you have to have him in the top 10. I don't really think there's much room to go up from where he is. People are already pricing Caleb Williams at his absolute ceiling. So, I mean, they might double count it, but if he has a great season, to me, he gets to where he's been valued. but I still think there's a lot of risk that if he has another bad productive season, like he's not paying off on that value he's giving you. You'd be better off having Baker Mayfield this year. So,
But what if Baker Mayfield does not have what if Baker Mayfield's like the quarterback 14 or 15 and so like
that could be 10 spots higher than Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I mean, and just last point.
Because what was Caleb in points per game? Like he was something like QB 23 last year in points per game.
Yeah,
he's got so much room to have to grow to me to catch up to the guy who was the QB 6 last year.
Would you consider taking Baker Mayfield in the top 10 quarterbacks for a Dynasty Superflex?
No.
Yeah. Well,
but I wouldn't consider Caleb either. That's the point I'm trying to make. Like I think Caleb is just so overvalued.
Yeah, because Caleb went like a full round ahead, which I didn't agree with that either. Like, I don't have Caleb. I have Caleb where Baker went in this startup at QB, 10? But Baker went at QB 10. And I thought that was way too early. Like, people were looking at redraft.
I agree with you, but that would be to me, that would be too early for Caleb. Like, I don't want either of them at QB 10.
Yeah, same. Like, give me Drake May.
Give Brock Purdy or Jordan Love easily over both.
Exactly.
But we're talking about Caleb Williams in the trade. Like I'll take Baker Mayfield over Caleb straight up. So that's why I'll take the Baker side.
Fair enough.
All right. And I mean, hey, it's a redraft episode, right? We should be going on the points, right? It's that time of year. Yes, it was a Dynasty 6-pack redraft special. So you're welcome, Rahul. We did it. We got through it. Jamie, it wasn't too much. It wasn't like nails on the chalkboard or painted nails on the chalkboard. You know what? I think we all agree with this, right? May above Caleb. Are we all like?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's the guy I'll take over Baker. Like that's like.
And I actually got May in that startup.
And to be honest, I still think May's going too early. I still think he's, but it's not as early as Caleb.
So
yes,
okay, I just want to say, everyone, this has been a fun episode. You got to go grab your guys who can win you a league. Dodge the ones that'll tank your league, right? And stash those sleepers before everyone else grabs them.
And we mentioned a couple sleepers today. I know next week Rahul will be gone, but Jamie and I will have a guest, and we'll all talk about who are those players we're going into our, specifically in dynasty leagues, those dynasty portfolios. We'll talk about our most rostered dynasty players next week. Rahul, you got your redraft episode. You're welcome, buddy.
Thank you both for indulging me. Even more excited for the season ahead. All great names that we talked about and discussed. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and sad to have another bye. Someone's got to talk to these schedulers. They got me another bye already, but I'm excited for all the episodes to come. So great episode, guys.
And thank you, Fancy Dog, Jason. Thank you, Cam. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Albert joined us early. Troc Talks as well. So appreciate everyone for joining us. Check out fantasy6pack.net and fantrax.com. Fantrax.com/fantasy6pack for our F6P partnership with Fantrax. On behalf of Rahul and Jamie, I'm Kyle Senra. This was another episode of the Dynasty Six Pack. See you all next week.